These men didn't start out as monsters, but they became monsters through the act of doing monstrous things. To quote directly from the book, 80 to 90% of the men proceeded to kill, though almost all of them, at least initially, were horrified and disgusted by what they were doing. But to break ranks and step out, to adopt overtly nonconformist behavior, was simply beyond most of the men. It was easier for them to shoot.
That sounds like a hell of a commentary on what's going on in the world today.
Conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous...
Information is the oxygen of the democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.
Let's talk about the Synagogue of Satan.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Synagogue of Satan. Will somebody hit the spooky music, please?
Real quick. The other thing you should do is hit the like and subscribe buttons on our boy Mr. Quigley's channel. I don't know how he's only at 28.6K subscribers, and this video rightly has 330,000 views. That is some fucking content, bro. That is killing the game, if you will. That's very impressive work. And I'm not surprised that he's getting those kinds of views on, regardless of his sub count, when he's making content this funny. So if you're not already in with our boy, Mr. Quigley, I bet that, give it a few minutes, I bet you'll be subscribing.
Who or what is the Synagogue of Satan?
Well, you see, the Bible teaches that there is the Synagogue of Satan. They are the ones that control the media.
You are the Synagogue of Satan, and you have wrapped your tentacles around the U.S. government.
Behold, I will make them of the Synagogue of Satan, and I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley.
What if I told you that there's a secret cabal of powerful people controlling the planet? The Rothschilds. Committing false flag attacks against innocent civilians. 9/11. All in service of an ancient demonic cult. Bohemian Grove. Offering blood sacrifices to bring about the Antichrist and the apocalypse. Homosexual amphibians. And what if I told you that this group is called the Synagogue of Satan?
Are you completely out of your fucking mind? What? What is happening right now?
I'm setting up the video.
No, I get that, but what is this Synagogue of Satan crap? Like, what are we doing after this? The Nazi base on the moon? And I mean, look at this thumbnail. What kind of brain rot YouTube clickbait bullshit?
Real quick, look at this thumbnail, bro. If you're blackpilling, if you're feeling down, if the Kentucky 4th District election has you feeling like there's no hope, a little perspective. This is the thumbnail for the video. It's this with the words Synagogue of Satan giant across the screen. That is being served to me by YouTube on their front page in 2026. Let's just say that that kind of stuff was not being served on YouTube even 2 years ago. It does look like Gavin Newsom, doesn't it? I don't know if that's intentional or on accident, but so I'm just saying the very existence of the conversation, the slipping of the filters, the noticing, it's at unprecedented levels. And it's got a long ways to go as a conversation before it's mature. And before it has matured in all of our awarenesses, understandings, and actually filtered out to making a difference in our culture. Right now, we're just learning the language still, most of us. Still learning the basic facts of what's even going on. But we've come a long way from just a few years ago. And also, I want you to note, if you're not a creative or a creator, just note the rhetorical tactics that he's using. Don't presume that when he makes fun of something, he's making fun of it. And when he says this, he's saying just that. Just be aware, this man is clearly playing some pretty high quality YouTube games.
Bullshit is this thumbnail? What kind of a moron would click on something like that? Don't look at them. Look at me. This channel is supposed to be about vaguely serious socio-political commentary, right? Why would you think that I would want to do something about the Synagogue of Satan? Well, because some people, not me mind you, but some people seem to think that this conspiracy is anti-Semitic. Why didn't you just say that to begin with?
So you've probably heard people throwing around the term Synagogue of Satan lately, and you're maybe a little curious about what all of that means. The Synagogue of Satan is a shorthand for a conspiracy theory that says that there are a bunch of powerful people running around doing a bunch of evil shit and wearing the Jewish identity like a skin suit to protect themselves from criticism, which is a totally weird and unfounded thing that definitely doesn't have just an overwhelming amount of evidence to support it. For the
Definitely not. Totally made up. And it makes me think of the quote that's just going to live forever from Tucker and Owen, where Owen says, the people that don't like conspiracy theories, the people that use that word as pejorative, they're the conspirators, right? The people that don't like conspiracy theories are conspirators. They're the people conspiring. Like, duh.
Uninitiated, for those of you that are not from a Christian background, allow me to very briefly explain the religious component of this idea. The phrase Synagogue of Satan is actually a biblical reference. It appears exactly twice in the Bible, both times in the early chapters of the book of Revelation, so damn near the end of the book. Now, these chapters are a series of letters that were allegedly written by Jesus as transcribed by the Apostle John and were sent to a series of small Christian communities throughout Asia Minor during the early years of the church. And the verses read as follows, Revelation 2:9. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. And Revelation 3:9. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship at your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Now, unfortunately, there's not really a whole lot of extra context provided about these verses. There's no indication of who these people actually were or what they did to deserve such an unfortunate designation as the Synagogue of Satan. One interpretation, the more obvious one, is that these were non-ethnic Jews, so Jews that were not of the direct lineage of Abraham, but that had adopted Jewish culture and who falsely identified as Jews. Another possibility is that these were the Pharisees or some other old school religious leaders that followed Abrahamic law, maybe even the same ones that plotted to crucify Jesus, which is strengthened by the fact that Jesus called the Pharisees the children of the devil in John 8:44. Or maybe it was just a group of Jews who had started worshiping Moloch and sacrificing children again, because that is just a thing that the Israelites loved to do over and over and over again in the Old Testament. Yeah, it's totally weird that people think Jews are running around sacrificing children these days, given how many times they claim to have done it themselves in their own holy book. But the reality is,
it's crazy how many anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are actually written in Jewish religious books directly, like as their actual history, as their actual rabbinic conversations about theology and about their own laws and trying to figure out what they should do with themselves. It's a whole rabbit hole that I'm personally going down a bit more on the side, and I think we should probably all go down a bit more on the side.
Is that these two verses in Revelation are completely open to interpretation. Nobody actually knows exactly what they mean. And the interpretation that many, many, many people have settled on over the years is that there be fake Jews running around doing evil shit. People who are not of the Abrahamic bloodline, but who claim the Jewish identity and use it as a protection for some nefarious purposes. And who would believe in such a thing? Well, it turns out a whole hell of a lot of different people with very different and even mutually exclusive and contradictory belief systems. We're talking about white supremacists like former KKK leader David Duke, black nationalists like Louis Farrakhan, Arab nationalists like Palestinian Chairman Mahmoud Abbas, left-wing anti-Zionists like Sean King, black Hebrew Israelites as promoted by Kyrie Irving in 2022, and most recently, mainstream conservative commentators like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. All of these groups and individuals have their own particular flavor of the Synagogue of Satan conspiracy theory, but they all kind of boil down into two major categories. Number one, the genetic lineage argument, which just says that the Jews that are around today are not the actual bloodline descendants of Abraham, or the more esoteric, spooky, satanic one that says that the people that are running around calling themselves Jews, whether they're Jews or not, are sacrificing children to Moloch in exchange for power and influence. And we will get to that one in a second. But first, I want to quickly address the genetic argument. The most popular version of the genetic argument is called the Khazar theory, or the Khazarian Mafia hypothesis, which proposes that modern Jews, and Ashkenazi Jews in particular, are actually the descendants of a multi-ethnic Turkish group called the Khazars, which converted to Judaism about 1,200 years ago in the 8th century. There's also the very controversial 2008 book, The Invention of Jewish People by Shlomo Sand, professor of history at Tel Aviv University, which argues that most modern Jews descended from converts to Judaism across the Middle East and Eastern Europe, rather than from a single displaced population. So where do I personally stand on the genetic lineage argument? Well, somewhere near the corner of Who Fucking Knows Street and Couldn't Give a Shit Boulevard.
Yeah.
Look, I already did a whole video on why the idea of a distinct Jewish racial identity makes absolutely no sense, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that here. If you're interested in that topic, go check out that other video. I'll leave a link in the description. But in short, anyone of any race can convert and become fully Jewish. Not just a member of the Judaic religion, but a full naturalized member of the Jewish ethnic community.
Just ask the Trump family, baby. Yeah.
Community. But also, and perhaps more importantly, there is no direct, unadulterated, pure sample of Khazarian DNA, and there certainly isn't a sample of Abraham's DNA that we can compare to anyone alive today and say, oh yes, this person is a real Jew and that person is not a real Jew. That isn't a thing. So the whole genetic argument is a question that cannot possibly be proven, which makes it incredibly boring and stupid as far as I'm concerned. What is more interesting to me, and probably to you as well, is the other side of the conspiracy theory. The idea that there is a group of powerful people, maybe real Jews or maybe not, who are deliberately and strategically using the Jewish identity and especially the memory of the Holocaust to gain favor and power, to manipulate world events, and to shield themselves from criticism. And that version of the conspiracy actually has some legs to it because, man, Jewish people be doing some evil shit these days.
I was worried that he was gonna try to dance around it for a second. It's like that part of the conspiracy theory might possibly be kind of like, open your fucking eyes, bro. Look around you. Yeah, pretty much. This is a YouTube movie. That is a title in a YouTube movie.
Evil shit these days.
I don't know if it's monetized or not. I have YouTube Premium, so I don't know, but I assume it's monetized. It's getting suggested to me. It's got 300,000 views.
I think it would be easier to dismiss the whole pedophilic Jewish cartel running the world and sacrificing children to Moloch thing if there weren't just a butt ton of examples of weird, creepy shit that people who claim the Jewish identity were up to these days. Whether they're...
Before we get too far into this, let's just clarify one thing too. It would seem like there is definitely some Jewish people doing some very evil things, probably including satanic things, definitely including pedophilic things. We got a whole set of files on that, millions of pages, all a hoax. There's definitely lots of evidence of cabals of Jewish people doing evil shit that is straight up demonic and sort of on this deeper conspiracy theory train he's talking about. But let's not pervert the concern that everybody has in their own ways about what's going on to pretend that it's only about the super conspiracy of a pedophilic elite of demon worshiping fake Jews. There's a little bit of that going on, and they're a huge problem. And they're obviously friends with all the other people that are part of the problem, but they're just a part of the problem. To clarify, the vast majority of people that are doing evil in this world right now aren't sacrificing babies to Moloch. The vast majority of evil people in this world that are on that team, that are helping that empire reach around the world and manipulate everything, most of them are just evil pieces of shit. A lot of them are naive. A lot of them are young. A lot of them are manipulated. A lot of them are just stupid, right? Most of them aren't sacrificing babies to demons. And they're still a huge concern. The nature of the problem is an international cartel that is built on ethno-nationalism, ethnic supremacy of a singular race, and then the establishment of a state based on those principles that then plays this weird double game of words and mind control and victim aggressor, constantly gaslighting everyone to both be constantly aggressing everyone and going after everyone and attacking and shutting down and watching and making sure you don't say the wrong things, buying out your elections in your country and telling you it's for your own good, all these things, while simultaneously being the biggest victims alive, being the most persecuted people ever, even though they're the wealthiest ethnic group in the world. And they are wildly overrepresented in banking and the establishment of the Federal Reserve, the entire debt-based banking system that our entire world runs off of, usury, not a Christian banking system. The vast majority of that problem, of that, what I really see as a global mafia, a globalized mafia that has now been, it has seeped its way into the actual state apparatus of the dominant empire in the world, which is the American empire. And it's done that not just through Israel infiltrating and manipulating America, but also just through Americans themselves. Many of them American Jews, a lot of them not Jews. Some of them Laura Loomers masquerading as Jews. The vast majority of this issue, of this global mafia, is not the baby sacrificing to Baal thing. So let's not twist it. And I'm not saying that he's trying to do that. I just want to clarify that there is a huge problem that is not this more niche fucked up part of this conspiracy theory that is wildly evidenced. There's so much evidence for all of this shit. Some of it more than others. Some of it is more up for debate than other parts. And I would argue that the part of their sacrificing babies to demons, that's more up for debate. It's more complicated. There's a lot we don't know, obviously. There's a lot of secrecy involved. But like the Epstein files, they just are what they are. You can read them, right? Massey's election is what it is. You can just look at it. Jewish people talk about how they controlled it and the money they put into it and how they'll buy any election they like. And if you don't like Jews, if you don't like what they like, yeah, sorry, you're gone. Just want to clarify before we get too far into the fun part. It's not fun. You know what I mean. The spooky part of this conspiracy, just to remind us all that this is obviously a very niche slice of the whole part of the problem. But they be bumping shoulders. They're all hanging out on these islands.
Actually Jewish or not, whether that distinction is meaningful or not, kind of doesn't matter to me anymore. Because in almost every example that I could think of to point to when it comes to the decay of Western civilization, from the banking cartels that are bankrupting our children with inescapable usury, to the degenerate cesspools of exploitation that are Hollywood and the pornography industries, to the perpetuation of endless, needless warfare and the killing of untold thousands of innocent children during my entire lifetime. In all of these things and more, there is a, let's say, disproportionate amount of Jewish representation. And especially considering how infinitesimally small of a percentage of the population they make up, I think that it is extremely unlikely that it ended up being that way by chance. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that everyone who calls themselves Jewish is evil, but what I am saying is that it's pretty clear that evil people have figured out that if they call themselves Jewish, it offers them certain advantages and protection. Because for the last 100 years, since World War II, the Jewish people have enjoyed a great deal of compassion and understanding worldwide. Hell,
Right? That's quite well said. Quite well said, sir.
I mean, we even gave them an entire country for themselves that wasn't ours to give and was already full of people that were living there. Oopsie daisy. Well, I'm sure that'll work out just fine. But very recently and very rapidly, that global goodwill has begun to completely evaporate for very understandable reasons. I think the thing that brought this idea of a satanic Jewish cabal to the forefront for me and for a lot of other people was some combination of Gaza and Jeffrey Epstein. Many questions remain remain about Epstein, but two things in particular are crystal clear. Number one, that he was without a doubt an Israeli intelligence asset with extensive connections via Robert Maxwell and Ehud Barak.
So this source is new to me, right, Mr. Quigley? I've never watched his YouTube channel before, as I'm sure you're doing. I'm always looking for any of the key indicators that this dude's legit, that this dude is here for truth and is here to speak his mind. Because I can totally vibe with playing games, not saying certain things for YouTube so that your channel doesn't get demonetized and, being careful like that. But that's different than being Michael Knowles and making videos that are like, well, yeah, Israeli people maybe contributed a lot of money to Thomas Massey's race, but like that doesn't mean that Israel bought the race. There's all sorts of other complicating factors, and I don't really want to talk about it because, I don't know. Whole different story. And one of the most obvious and easy litmus tests is, do they talk openly and directly about the fact that Epstein worked for Israel? If they're doing that, we're off to a pretty good start. And half of the playing field is already eliminated. Half of the playing field has already exposed how controlled or brain dead they are.
And number two, that this was not just pedophilia. Like that alone would have been bad enough. But no, this went way further and way darker than that. Now, I don't know exactly how much of the nastier stuff in the Epstein files I'm allowed to show on YouTube, but suffice to say it's there. And if you're watching this video, you're probably already at least somewhat familiar with it. If you're not already aware, then I guess just be careful and be sure to monitor your mental health. Point being, it is entirely too easy to read satanic, occult, evil shit into the behavior and activities of this man. And this is just the stuff that they've shown us. The overwhelming majority of the Epstein files are still redacted because they've not released the photos or videos, which you would think would be the most important part. Imagine the kind of horrific stuff the government has decided we don't get access to.
They also never collected the vast majority of it. They gave him advance warning at most of his properties that they were coming so that they could all get cleared out in advance. At one of the properties, they actually came, saw all the binders of CDs of who knows what, photographed that they existed, and then left and asked Jeffrey Epstein's estate to mail them to the police station. The actual stuff that was collected is the tiniest slice of what actually happened because the cover-up already happened back then. And then it happened again just last year.
And with Epstein's direct connections to the Israeli government, which is an organization that seems hell-bent on murdering as many children as it can get away with and single-handedly driving the entire world into famine and war and misery and destruction, I think it's easy to see why so many people are using religious or spiritual terminology to describe current events. Evil, demonic, Synagogue of Satan.
I like this guy, right? I'm just curious. He has 32 videos. How long has he been posting for? So it looks like his first video was 9 months ago. Grinding, 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 still grinding, still grinding, and then he hits it. That's a good thumbnail. Oh, he's the guy that made this video. Holy shit, bro. His next video is called No, Israel Does Not Have a Right to Exist. Here's why. So I was curious how long he's been making videos for, because we'll talk more about this in the future, lots of times. But I am a big believer in more of us regular folks starting to make content, just starting to add voices, because when you log on to X, you get this deluge of Israeli propaganda coming from all of their Israeli mouthpieces. But ultimately, there's only like 20 of them that actually have video cameras and faces and actually can pretend to leverage any real influence. The rest are just bots and trolls and faceless accounts. And there really is a critical mass element to this public square where imagine if it was just Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. And that's it. And no one else was here. No one else was talking. No one else was investigating Charlie Kirk. No one else was doing anything, right? They would be drowned out. They would look like pariahs. They would look crazy. A lot of us would still tune in and still pay attention and not care about that. But a lot of people wouldn't, because it would just They would be too solitary. The more people, the more regular folks you get empowering ourselves by using these technologies to just add to the conversation, the more the institutionalized empire shills get drowned out and become irrelevant. Because if we're just having a whole big conversation of us regular humans talking about regular human thoughts without all their bullshit thought control, they become irrelevant. It's only because they actually occupy a significant portion of the dialogue space that they're even relevant at all. That's why they need institutions like the Daily Wire and Turning Point USA, PragerU, to sort of keep everybody in their content spaces, because that's the only way that they have any control or relevancy over what's getting discussed and what's being said. And the more of us that wake up and choose metaphorical violence, one might say, make some content, make some videos, make some audio, contribute something, do some research, whatever it is, the more we all get, right? Danks is a great example of this, right? Danks and Bays and Danks, and there's this whole cadre of homies like that have popped up on YouTube just in the last year since Charlie Kirk. That is a great example of exactly what I'm talking about, of like just dudes from all walks of life, women too, that are all just like, I can jump in, I'll like my hat in the ring. And some of them are seeing more success, some of them seeing less. They're all helping each other out. They're creating this whole other content sphere, and it's so fucking cool to watch. And they've got great takes. They're doing great research. They're contributing. And then because they're contributing in video format, it's so much easier for a bigger account like me to take one of their videos and share a clip of it, right? To take Danks' live stream and react to it. And suddenly I can help him get more exposure because he's doing something that brings value to the conversation. Whereas if he was just an anon on Instagram, like messaging me like, hey, Ian, you need to talk about this one issue that I really care about. Read my whole DM so you know how important my issue is. Like, obviously I can't, that's sorry. But when you are making video content about it, when you're contributing to the like conversation, everything changes. And it's really cool to see. And basically I was scrolling to be like, how long has this guy been doing this? And like, what's his vibe? What's his story? And I don't know him. I don't know anything about him. This is the first video of his that I've seen. But what I am looking at here is, it looks to me like I'm seeing someone that had the right skill set and personality to be good at this, and then worked at it for several months, learning thumbnails and probably the art of what he's doing and what works and what doesn't. And, you know, didn't get any major hits. And then made a video that had a great thumbnail, great title, right on time, very topical. They got picked up by someone and got some viewership. And then, boom, a regular person can very much do this kind of thing. And who knows? Maybe he's like some Mossad psyop. I don't know. But that's not that's not what I would be led to believe based upon what he's saying. Homie seems pretty on point. Shout out to you, Mr. Quigley. It seems like you're doing great.
But as tempting as it is to view the world through this supernatural lens, I think that it might be a coping mechanism for some, and something that we should be cautious about. Removing these things from the realm of human capacity and instead framing them as an epic struggle between the forces of good and evil, it can be a way to make it more digestible and comprehensible. Let me give you an example so that you know what I mean. By the way, I'm about to spoil the ever-loving bejesus out of the show Full Metal Alchemist. So if you've never seen it before and you think you might want to, you should, because it's pretty good. Go ahead and skip to this timestamp, okay? If you have already seen it, first of all, you're a fucking weeb, but carry on. Full Metal Alchemist is set in a universe where people are capable of performing superhuman feats of matter manipulation, the primary governing rule of which is the law of equivalent exchange. In order to get anything, you have to give up something of equal value. Eventually, someone figures out that you can sacrifice human lives in exchange for great power. This forbidden knowledge, held by the ruling class of a particular country, results in a nationwide conspiracy to engage in perpetual warfare against its surrounding neighbors, not for the purpose of winning territory or settling disputes, but rather to sacrifice enough human lives through warfare in order to perform a massive blood ritual and achieve godlike power. Everything about this country, to include its creation, the shape of its borders, its foreign and domestic policies, everything about it has been engineered from the beginning for the purpose of engaging in mass human sacrifice. And what is the name of this evil, demonic, genocidal nation that instigates endless warfare and suffering? Why, Israel, of course.
Holy shit, is it really?
I'm telling you, once you see it, you can
Is
never
it really
unsee
called
it.
Israel?
There's some part of me that kind of wants for
Whoa, whoa,
Israel
whoa,
to be
whoa, whoa.
involved.
I haven't seen Full Metal Alchemist in a long time. Don't presume that when he makes fun of something, he's making fun of it. And when he says this, he's saying just that. Just be aware this man is clearly playing some pretty high quality YouTube games. Okay, so he's telling a joke. He's telling a joke. It's called a Mistress. It's the kind of thing though where it's got the 7 deadly sins like baked into the lore and the naming of everything. So it's got a lot of like symbology baked into its storytelling and lore. And so it's the kind of thing where I would not be surprised if they had like used some biblical terminology or framing and actually called the nation Israel. Very possible. The metaphor he's referring to 100% on point. But it's not actually literally called Israel in the show. I was about to lose my gourd.
In some weird, creepy, demonic worship shit. Because at least in the Full Metal Alchemist universe, the killing is intelligible. It's part of a plan. It serves some kind of purpose, horrific though it may be. And the evil entity behind all of it is something real, something tangible, something that can be fought against. It's a story of good struggling against evil, human triumphing over non-human, which is so much more palatable than the situation we find ourselves in now. Because in our universe, if there is no supernatural entity, if there is no Satan or Baal or Moloch, that means it's just humans doing evil shit. It means it's just us. And it means that nobody's coming to save us. Everybody wants to believe that they're a good person, right? And not just a good person in their normal everyday life circumstances, but people probably want to believe that they would still be a good person under really horrific circumstances. What do you think that you would have done if you had been a normal, middle-aged, working-class German during World War II? Most people would like to believe that they would be one of the good guys, right? That they'd be hiding people in their attics or actively trying to undermine the government or something. But statistically speaking, that is extremely unlikely. Like, even if you weren't actively participating in the horrific war crimes that were happening all around you, you probably would have turned a blind eye to most of them. You probably would have gone along to get along, right? Social conformity is a power.
What did you do during COVID? Did you go along to get along? Did you roll up your sleeve and get vaxxed anyways? Did you pressure other people to get vaccinated? And what did you do during the genocide in Gaza right now? The killing of Charlie Kirk? Did you Matt Walsh it? Were you Ben Shapiro? Or were you Candace Owens? Tucker Carlson out here, speaking up, doing what you can. Were you the thousands of other smaller creators, grassrootsers, people with voices or the voiceless all speaking up, just trying to do something, not going along, right? We actually have a lot of information right now about who would and who wouldn't.
Powerful thing. We desperately want to fit into a tribe and not be an outcast. And this isn't me being mean. I'm not picking on you in particular. I'm just pointing out the fact that all human beings have within them the capacity to do great evil, or at the very least to turn a blind eye to evil that's being done around them. This is one of my favorite books about World War II. It's called Ordinary Men by Christopher Browning, and it follows the story of this one police battalion of ordinary middle-aged working-class men who were drafted into the German army, but for one reason or another were found to be ineligible for regular military duty. And so instead, in the late summer of 1942, they were ordered to carry out a series of mass executions, starting with 1,500 Jews in Józef, Poland. Now, I won't go into any graphic detail here, but suffice to say it is stomach-churning. And not just what happens to the victims, which is horrific, but also the psychological changes that happen within the men that are doing the killing that slowly causes them to become numb to what they're doing. These men didn't start out as monsters, but they became monsters through the act of doing monstrous things. To quote directly from the book, 80 to 90% of the men proceeded to kill, though almost all of them, at least initially, were horrified and disgusted by what they were doing. But to break ranks and step out, to adopt overtly nonconformist behavior, was simply beyond most of the men. It was easier for them to shoot. The conclusion that Browning comes to in this book is that one of the primary motivating factors that...
I've not read that book. That sounds like a hell of a commentary on what's going on in the world today. Oh boy. Yeah.
It kept this men at this task was the knowledge that if any one of them stepped away and shirked what they saw as their duty, it meant that one of their comrades would have to kill that many more innocent people. And that this weird combination of peer pressure and appeal to authority kept them going long enough to where they just completely transformed into different people. Now, why do I bring...
If the reason why he brings that up isn't to point out that Israelis are evil now, Israeli society is perverted, deranged, and demonic, that Israeli citizens themselves, though they may vary widely in their opinion of policy, monetary, fiscal policy, education policies, healthcare policies, how to run the Israeli government, all these things, the vast majority of them have served in the IDF. The vast majority of them think that Palestinians are subhuman. The vast majority of them support genocide and support the Greater Israel Project. The vast majority of them have no problem with the torture and other horrible things that are going on in Israeli prisons to people that have stood no trial and have no chance at justice. Because when you're part of a society that does such evil so consistently across everyone, they're drafted to do it. Their whole... and that's not an accident, by the way. When that's your society over the generations, over time, and it's normalized, and if you step out of line, you're a traitor, a self-hating Jew, well, that is a perfect recipe for a truly fucked up and evil society full of truly deranged and damaged people. If that's not where he's going with it, I'll just take it there for us. I figure that's probably where he's going.
Up this book because it's one of the few pieces of media about World War II that I've ever engaged with that depicts the average German soldier as human, a flawed human, yes, but human nonetheless. So when we look at the average IDF soldier as they bomb or shoot children or turn Gaza into a parking lot out of pure sadism, or we look at the average Jewish oligarch destroying the environment or degrading our culture, it's tempting to look at these men as demons, as non-human, as monsters. And this is where the Synagogue of Satan framing comes into play. We want to think of these men as something fundamentally different than what we are. We crave the comfort of that belief, of believing that we are not them and we could never be them. But the scarier thing...
This guy's sharp.
And the more uncomfortable thing, and the thing that I think we need to grapple with if we're ever going to solve this issue permanently, is that no, these are just humans. Sociopaths, maybe, but humans nonetheless. Now that doesn't...
Demons need your human body to inhabit. They don't exist on their own. And that's not coming from like a Christian theology perspective. I'm not well versed on Christian theology. That's just coming from a basic metaphoric storytelling perspective of this is a useful metaphor to frame how the world works so that you can live a better life and be a better person. A lot of religion, you can take it from a religious perspective, or you can just realize that when you have good storytelling framing around your life, it makes you a better person and it makes everything make more sense. It helps keep shit together. It helps stop people from being evil, helps encourage and incentivize them to be good. It's a trick we've used on ourselves for thousands and thousands of years. And whether or not you believe in the actual divinity of God and the actual theology of your chosen religion, I support believing in your religion, especially if it's Christianity. But I also support, if you can't get all on board with the religious part of it, I highly support just getting the metaphor side of it because it's super useful. And the metaphor of demons is extremely purpose-built and functional in society. And it only gets more and more functional as modern society evolves and as these things take over our brains and as we move into the digital world. I think a solid understanding of the metaphor of demons and demon possession, and like he's saying, how we are all human and everyone is susceptible to the demonic. Everyone has the sin in them. Everyone has a little kernel of the potential to do evil or to be slothful or to be lustful or to be envious or whatever your chosen Achilles heels are. I think that's a way healthier way to frame the world than meh. right? Coming back again to the stories you grow up with, the heroes' journeys, the fantasy is the wrong word, the narratives, I guess, that you build around your life make a big difference.
Doesn't excuse their behavior. They still need to be stopped by whatever means are necessary.
Some guy is your religion.
So it doesn't change the prescription, but it does change the diagnosis. And most importantly, it puts the responsibility for doing something about it on us, instead of outsourcing that responsibility to some supernatural entity like God or Jesus, who clearly have no interest in directly intervening and stopping the wanton suffering that is happening. I know that things are wrong in the world today, fundamentally wrong, deeply, profoundly wrong. But I think that when we reach reflexively for a supernatural explanation for things like this, we lessen ourselves. We relieve ourselves of the responsibility, of the duty to stand up and do something about it. Now, I don't know what the solution is necessarily. I don't know how to fix all of this. And to be perfectly clear, YouTube, I'm not advocating for violence. But I do think that a step in the right direction would be to stop allowing people to hide behind their cultural identity or their ethnicity as a shield from criticism. And I do think that we should stop allowing people to do evil shit because we're afraid of being called a racist. Whether these people are real Jews or fake Jews or part of a cult or not, I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter to me anymore. If the price for standing against the evil that I see is to be called an anti-Semite, I mean, that's your word, not mine. But I don't care anymore, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And I think more and more people are coming to that realization every day. So I guess we'll see. Thank you very much for sticking around to the end of the video. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a big follow for Mr. Quigley. Let's get this man to 50,000 subscribers this month. Let's blow this shit up, dude. Let's smash that like button, because bro is just telling it like it is, and seems like this is what I love, this format where it's like he's literally just a regular dude in his house with his shit around. He bought a microphone and one camera and just understands enough about the skills of orating and storytelling and piecing together his thoughts in a way that is compelling. And he's unafraid enough to talk about the thing that is the most important thing right now, the thing that is on everybody's mind, that's bungling up every fucking part of our world right now. And he's having a ton of success. So huge congrats. Shout out to Mr. Quiggs. Great video. And I don't think he means it this way. He talks there at the end about how the Synagogue of Satan concept sort of gives you permission to, let's say, not do anything about it, to be apathetic, to just sort of sit around and, hope that God fixes it. I don't think that's what most people think. I think most people that subscribe to the Synagogue of Satan concept, they know that we're the ones here doing the thing. I think that most of us are well aware that these are humans and we have to fight them in this domain. But rhetorically, I think that the reason why I say I don't think that he is missing that is because rhetorically, it's important to point that out still for all of us, to remind ourselves that this is our fight. This is our struggle. Whether you believe in God and Jesus or not, or whatever you want to believe in. The way I see it, the sort of non-denominational way that I look at it, is that we are here to grow up. Whatever we're here to do, we're here to live this story out as humans, and we're here to try to do it as best we can. And you can either go down the evil road or the good road, right? Call it whatever you want. And if everyone goes down the good road, we all grow up real great. And we make an amazing society. And humanity evolves and matures into an amazing, flourishing species. If we all go down the shitty road, we all tear each other apart. And you get a pretty awful situation. And all humans have both wolves in them, right? And we all make our choices, and we all have our temptations and our sin, and we also all have our inherent goodness and our humanity, our soul, our little conduit to God, you might say, where you can hear what's the right thing to do all the time in your soul, unless you shut it up real hard. And so the way I look at it is we're all on this journey together of growing up together, and we're supposed to make the mistakes. We're supposed to fight the evils. We're supposed to have the hardships. We're supposed to have these factions doing terrible things so that we can learn about how this works, so that we can learn what it means to live in a society, so we can learn what it means to have a parasitic international criminal organization hiding behind an ethnic identity that's actually just ruling the world through compromised debt-based banking systems and fake funny money, for example. Just little things like that. These are all things we need to learn. And these are things that any society would need to learn anywhere in the universe. If you invent money, you're going to get a Jew coming along and figuring out how we can clip that coin, so to speak. And obviously, that's a joke. Not all Jews clip coins, but I thought it was pretty funny. So yeah, solid video, bro. Solid video to the Quigs. That was great. That's my vibes on it. That's my feelings.
Conspiracy theories are entering a dangerous
Information is the oxygen of the democracy.
There's so much evidence out there that even if less than 1% is true, that would be enough to collapse the current paradigm